What's going on, Movie Mills? We're giggling. We're here to go. Podcast, Movie Mills podcast.
Let's
Guys,
go.
remember, it's just exclusive on Patreon. Clip outs on Mondays. Show drops on Mondays. Talk about stuff in the world of entertainment. Could be an hour long. Could be less than that. We'll find out. Today probably be a little shorter. A little less news to talk about. But yeah, so
big
go get some
news.
merch. Got some on right now. It's all linked in the description. Summer's really coming to an end here. Movies have come to an end. So a couple topics here. We'll I'll just go say real
Did
quick
you
off
say
top bat. I
movies are
watched
coming to an end?
summer movies. If I didn't say the word summer, I apologize. Summer movies
Oh.
really coming to an end here. So it's kind of like there's always that lull between August, like kind of around August, usually at
October.
some point between October, like that first big October movie, whether it's Oscar contender or whether it's like a big horror movie or a big just, like Dune came out in October or something like that. So, but I will say we'll review it when Kyle gets a chance to see it. I did see Prey on Hulu. Very fun. Very, very good. And I want to say a shout out to the filmmakers who I want to look up their names just because I want to make sure I get them right here. But shout out to them for putting the movie in English, but then also having the entire movie, and I will butcher names here, but I believe it was the Camuchin language that is native to the native tribe in the movie. The whole movie you can watch in that language, and I think that is just incredible. I think it's incredible because the actors are all native, and it's just, I mean, not all of them. There are a few white guys in it. There, you'll see why, but I just, you don't see that in Hollywood. And my biggest negative of the movie, and I bet you Kyle agrees when the movie ends, I wish I would have seen it in the theater because it was awesome. And it's short. It's like an hour and a half. It's a great time. It's awesome. It's a simple story. It's the best Predator movie since Predator. Yeah, Shane Black, looking at you, dude. But it was good. And Amber Midthunder, I think is how you say her name. Yeah, she is a New Mexican actress and was just incredible. She was in Hell or High Water in a small role. She is super talented. I thought she was incredible. The movie was awesome. So shout out to Dan for not only doing that, but just making a really, really great movie. Oh, this is the executive producer of The Boys?
Oh, that's
And he
cool too.
did he direct 10 Cloverfield Lane?
I think I did hear somewhere he did direct that
Yes.
movie.
And
And we
some
love that
Black
movie.
Mirror? Let's go.
Yeah, good for that guy.
What a
He's
stud.
talented.
Yes,
I'm glad to hear
sir.
that. I mean, that's pretty much the consensus for this movie that I've heard the last 2 weeks now. This type of hype is reminding me of the hype coming out of Everything Everywhere All at Once, really. Like, just everyone was saying how great the movie was.
Now
So,
that's a great
um,
movie.
and I can tell you already, I do wish this movie was in theaters over streaming, that's for sure. But they probably looked back at the last Predator movie, so thanks a lot, Shane Black, and they saw how bad that movie did, and they're like, Predator movies and stuff can be for streaming. And it's just a rough time that we're in right now, like between streaming and theatrical, to where some most of the time these studios can tell whether it's good for theaters or whether it's good for streaming, but even still, there's a time to where they misjudge, and it's possible that this movie could have done well, like even in this August and September corridor of theatrical releases, but I don't know. Or maybe people would have just waited for it to be on streaming anyway. You just never know how audiences respond to, these types of things. Marketing also could play a role too. It's a bummer. I can tell you that already because I would want to see it in theaters, but you just never know. You just never know, like, what could work and what can't work.
We were gonna, yeah, Prey's great. Go check it out. What you brought up is a really great segue to what we were gonna end the show on, but I think we should hit it off the top now and talk about Warner Brothers because you're talking about streaming and everything. I think it's a great segue. So
Okay.
I'll try a recap. Correct me on any corrections here. So
Okay.
we talked about it last week on the podcast with Batgirl, right? The news had just dropped. Batgirl was canceled, as well as a Scoob movie. The next day, 8 other projects had been canceled. There was like this remake movie with, I think, Anne Hathaway. There was this thing with Seth Rogen. There was a couple different things. And then we waited till last Thursday where they had their big, hi Max, my cat's just hanging out. then this last Thursday, a few days ago, they have their big like stockholder meeting, with the company that's
Investors
public because
call.
yeah, the
Yeah.
investors call it's a public thing. Disney does it too. That's where like you don't usually hear a lot from these. I really don't think, but every now and then you get tidbit like Disney. I remember that meeting is where Bob Iger was like, I shouldn't have released Solo in May or whatever. Like it was like you hear some interesting things, and he first of all they released
Publications
yeah.
probably get the press releases, they get the notes, possibly recordings, but it's not like they usually, like, stream these things, unlike that one year where Disney was like, "Happy Investors Day," and I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah, it was
"This isn't a
ridiculous.
Comic-Con, like, what are you" like, "No,
So
stop it. This is so
so
weird."
Kyle and I love the industry. We really truly for a long time have loved talking about it. I think that's probably because of John Campea making AMC Movie Talk, and they used to really talk about the industry. And I think you and I just really glued onto the industry and how these studios function and work. Because I think there are a lot of fans that think they know how it works, but they just repeat clickbait headlines when that's really not how things work. And I was a big fan of Bob Iger. I know a lot of people dislike Disney, but I think from a business standpoint, Bob Iger was fantastic as the head of Disney, as the CEO of all Disney. I think he did a great job, and he learned from mistakes. He made mistakes, but he did a lot of great things. Um, I think new Bob has struggled. I think you and I both talked about how he's more of a numbers guy, it feels like, and he would rather just make money. I mean, even just look at his moves with Florida and how he was, had to backtrack on the Don't Say Gay bill and all this stuff. And it's like,
Mhm.
he clearly, to me, that was clearly him being like, the numbers want me to keep everything open and not protest. And the people were like, forget the numbers. You need to help us protest. And that's really why he backtracked. I don't think it was anything personal or anything like that. Truly, I don't. I think he's a money guy through and through. But now this new guy
As
is it
most of them
Dave?
are, yeah.
What's the new CEO of Warner Brothers? Dave
David
something?
Zaslav,
John
who came from
Zaslav,
David
Zazzy
Zaslav,
Boy.
who co
I will now
Zazzy
be
Boy.
referring to him as Zazzy Boy.
That's fine.
So Zaslav. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Zazly.
Zazaloo.
Need that L in there. So
Zaboomafoo.
Zazzy Boy. No, I like Zazzy better. Let's go Zazzy Boy. So Zazzy
Alright,
Boy, it
alright.
was now correct me if I'm wrong. The head of Warner or Discovery, right? He was the head CEO of Discovery, and then Warner Media bought Discovery. They merged, kind of. They didn't really buy each other, but they merged. Correct? That's what happened.
Discovery merged with Warner Bros. After AT&T
So did
realized that they don't know what they're doing. So AT&T doesn't have it anymore, Discovery does.
So that's right. AT&T owned Warner Media, right? That has Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, HBO, lots of different things like that. CNN, all these different things. And
Mhm.
so Discovery bought it. So then Discovery goes, okay, we're in charge now. You know what I mean? So they're
Mhm.
firing everybody, and now he went from the head of Discovery to the head of everything. So he brings in Alan Horn as a consultant, which everybody, including us last week, were like, oh, this is well, a lot of people said he was coming in to be the head of DC, and it was just blatantly people who were not reading the article. He came in as a consultant.
He's bringing
Um,
back the Snyderverse, Alex. Alan Horn's bringing back the Snyderverse. You heard that here first, folks.
yeah,
That's clearly what they're going to do.
they officially announced they're
Obviously.
distancing themselves from Zack Snyder as well. So
Yeah.
sorry, Snyder
Yeah.
boys. Um, So they bring so then this meeting comes in and they do some very stupid things. So they announced that HBO Max, from what I remember reading, is that HBO Max is actually going to be staying or possibly merging and becoming. They said possibly becoming HBO Max Discovery. I read one quote from somebody in Discovery who said, I think this is from Variety, that said that they're going to take this. None of this will happen until 2024, but they said they're going to take time to figure out how people feel about the HBO Max name, but that HBO is essential to what they're doing there at Warner. And they
Mhm.
release these really horrible graphics that looks like you made it in your senior graphics class. Um, and they said Discovery will be for the females and HBO will be for the males, where HBO is going to be like scripted, where Discovery
It's
will be
content where you lean
non-scripted
in,
material.
while Discovery you
Yeah.
lean back.
Let me look it up. Let me find them. Let me find the screenshots here for a second. Um,
Sure. Yeah, some of those slides that came out from the presentation was funny. There was one where it's
horrible.
like, I believe one of them was like a circle with an arrow that said content, and the arrow pointed to like uh theatrical, the words theatrical and television at like the same time or something, and it's like, I wonder what this slide is going to be about. But I mean, maybe the Zaslav had to be like, we have to really let these bozos up in the head offices know like what we're doing here. Like we really need them to understand this clearly.
So, real quick, I didn't find the slides, but I did find this tweet that went viral that I want to touch on real quick, just because I found it first. Take
Mhm.
a side tangent. So somebody tweeted this out and said someone over on Reddit posted a list of all the projects Warner Brothers slash Discovery has canceled since the merger. And I've seen a lot of people argue and be like, "What the heck? These are so good." But then I've seen a lot of critics who I really like. You know, like a guy like Lon Harris, who I think is a great critic in Hollywood from Screen Junkies, kind of
Mhm.
talked about this a lot, and he was like, "Dude, all these projects sound awful." Or weren't that great, or he liked but just didn't have a big following. And it was like CNN
Yeah.
Plus, which did terrible, Raised by Wolves, which I like, but was very heavy sci-fi, not going to be for everybody. Close Enough, never heard of it. The Godara Chronicles, never heard of it. Made of Love, never heard of it. Chad, never heard of it. Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, never heard of it. Three Busy Debras, never heard of it. Joe Para Talks with You, never heard of it. Naomi, never heard of it. Legends of Tomorrow, heard of it, but it was time for all of those CW shows to go. Snowpiercer,
Mhm.
I heard was very good. I wanted to watch it, just never got a chance. That's a bummer. The Wonder Twins film, don't care. Scoob, don't care. Batgirl, bummed for Leslie. Like that's the biggest thing for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think that's an interesting point because I do think that those aren't massive projects. Um, I'm trying to
That are
find
getting
these
them
freaking
views, getting them
slides. Yeah, you
subscribers.
talk for a sec on that while I try to find this gall dang and slide.
When it comes to the streaming aspect, um I wasn't concerned when you heard like the rumblings of them canceling projects. Like I remember seeing reports that the Wonder Twins project got canceled real fast, and then hearing that a really expensive J.J. Abrams sci-fi show got canceled. And some of those things were understandable because, for one thing, they're only in development. They haven't been shot yet. Money wasn't put into them yet. So when it comes to those types of cancellations, I'm not too upset by them. And some other projects that have already, had a season or a season or two and have run their course, at that point, those guys have enough data. They see the numbers of viewership. They see if those projects have any relation to increasing subscriber numbers. And they probably said, okay, those are costs that we don't need anymore. And even if there was like a remotely small fan base, it's not enough to where we can keep the projects going. So that stuff is understandable. What was frustrating to me though is seeing something like Batgirl that supposedly did have good tests that were similar to like the first
So
It movie.
hang on real
And
quick.
okay,
I did just a lot of digging, and from what
hmm
I've heard, it was one test screening, and that
yeah,
the score coming out of it, and this came from Frosty on Collider. I know he talked a lot about it, where he was in that room,
okay,
said that the CGI was not done. There was a lot of meh, but that it was one test screening and it scored similar to the same score the first It got when it had its very first test screening. That's I just want to clarify.
hmm
But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. No, that's good to have. It's good to have that clarification because that's the part that's a little frustrating to me. It makes me worried about how this new regime is going to treat working alongside the talent aspect of it. Like I understand if a project ends up being a bad project and that sucks, but at the same time there is that aspect of the industry which I wish cared a little bit more about the art that is being made. And this isn't like, I'm not trying to say this as like me being a fan of DC being like we should have released the Batgirl cut. I'm not on that side of it. I'm just talking about like the industry in general, and it just makes me worry that something like what happened with Batgirl could happen with even more things. Like despite it being in the midst of production, putting a lot of money into a project, and then winding up just shrugging and going, well, no, we're just going to cancel it anyway. Those types of cancellations I'm a little worried about moving forward, and I hope don't happen often. I'm hoping that this was just an unfortunate and rare occurrence, that had to be done, but at the same time, those types of cancellations are what I hope don't be a continuing pattern, not just for Warner Bros or HBO, but for all of these different types of companies as well. Because it does feel like nowadays they kind of care more about the numbers rather than the craft of it all. And I understand, like, business has to make money, yada yada yada, but that's the frustrating part about this industry. Like, there's that business aspect, but that artistic integrity aspect as well. And lately, I believe in this day, they just come to a heads and clash so often that it just becomes frustrating when we see like the rare occurrence of this type of report to where Batgirl is canceled despite almost being done, and it's like, that's so frustrating. I just
So
hope that doesn't become a continued trend. But
I found the slides.
go ahead.
Okay. And I
Hmm.
want to say before I get too far into this, because I found the separation one that's stupid, and then I found the other one of like their priorities, and we'll get to that
Yeah.
after. But they also,
Good.
and the clip has gone viral of this, where
Hmm.
he said they brought in Alan Horn, Zazzy Boy brought in Alan Horn, and that their goal is to copy Marvel. They tried that over
Sure.
the last 10 years with what's called the DC extended universe,
Hmm.
and it hasn't worked. You're trying to copy something that is uncopyable. It will never happen again. We'll never get a universe as well thought out. Even if the magic's gone, baby, you can't argue how well thought out, well crafted, creative, and unique it is. It will never happen again. It's the Star Wars of this time. Sorry, DC. Your focus should be on the Batman and more of that. So here's their unique and complementary. Man, you are one needy cat right now, bruh. So here's their unique and complimentary slide. It says HBO Max will be male skewed, scripted, lean in, appointment viewing, and home of fandoms in quotes. Discovery
Hmm.
Plus will be female skewed, unscripted. It'll lean back, comfort viewing, home of genredoms. Um, I've seen a lot of backlash about how Zazzy Boy, when he took over, said he was going to really make a diverse room and that he fired women and people of color and minorities and has exclusively only hired older white males. And I've seen a
Hmm.
lot of people, critics, people I follow in the Twitter sphere that I think are really good in Hollywood as critics and content creators and things like that, who have had to go into debates because of people who are like, that's not what they're doing. I think it is what they're doing a bit. I mean, that's writings on the wall. I mean, you're telling me there wasn't one woman you want to bring on? You're going to have a Discovery Plus completely skewed towards women and you're not going to have a woman over there? Like, also, you're telling me women can't like scripted content? Women can't lean in. Women don't want appointment type viewing, whatever the heck that even means. Or men can't do the opposite, and they don't. They you tell me they don't like unscripted content? It's
Shark
sexist
Week.
and it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's gross. And how are you saying that you're going to make this 10-year plan? You're going to copy Marvel with your DC universe. You're going to do all this stuff, and you still are 10 years behind the game, 20 years behind the game. I don't get it. You want to speak on this, bro? You got it. You got to calm down, bro.
He's talking to me, folks. Definitely not the cat in
No, the
his room.
cat. You speak. I can still hear you. I'm gonna go double check this little guy's got water.
Yeah. No, that is frustrating. Initially, when he was coming on board, I was really hoping that this would be a good guy to be able to helm the Warner Bros. Side of things, the theatrical side of things. Just being able to just think about the content rather than think about like the numbers aspect of it all. But
He's got
I'm
plenty.
kind of worried that this is becoming like a numbers game, and in doing so, they're not thinking about people, and that people part ties into like who he hired. Like, clearly he despite saying like diverseness of it all, yada yada, that's just not gonna be coming to fruition. So that part onto itself is also frustrating to me. Yeah, those types of diagrams, those types of ways to figure out like your main demographics and this and that, it feels very old school, and it feels really pathetic, to be
It's
honest. It just,
disgusting. How is
yeah,
Disney
it's
ahead of you
very
on this?
frustrating.
Disney's the
Yeah,
one who
that,
gets
and
crapped on the most, and they're
yeah, no
everybody for
kidding.
10 years I've heard Disney will never make a streaming service and definitely never put R-rated content on it. Guess what Disney did? They put R-rated content because our boy's a number guy, and the numbers say that that kids can handle it. They can handle having Daredevil somewhere they can't find on the streaming site. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. Anyway, you want to get to the did I cut you off? I'm sorry. Do you have more
No,
on that, or do
I
you
was
want me
just
to
gonna
get to
add on
the
the D.
Go ahead.
You
Go
go.
ahead.
What were you gonna say?
No, you go. Add on. I was just gonna move on to the global powerhouse, like their main focus stuff. But finish your thought.
Oh, that might tie into the DC stuff I was gonna mention, but yeah, it's just nothing. Something else that was also frustrating was just hearing them go, "Oh, we got a 10-year plan for DC. We're gonna get our own Feige to switch things up a little," and I just am
They don't
like,
even
"Oh
have their own
God, not
Feige. They
this."
brought in,
Not this
yeah.
crap again. No one has their own Feige. We literally had a podcast episode talking about how Kevin Feige is a freaking unicorn. There's no other guy like
Who
him. There's
look
there's no
Kevin
other guy who
Feige
has the credentials and the experiences that he has, and the love for
and the
this type of
failures.
genres as well. Like no one in the business world is that. There could be many years down the road. It's possible. There's a lot
There
of
will
younger
never be.
people who could become business people simply because they learned about Feige and they learned about MCU movies. But it's not happening anytime soon. They need to stop thinking that they can make this grand plan the same way Marvel does and just make movies. I've liked what this last DC regime has done with the likes of Shazam, with the likes of Batman, Joker. Like, at least it's stuff that stands on their own and it's enjoyable at the same time. I don't have to think about how it all connects. I don't care about connectivity anymore. I have that with Marvel, and Marvel is in
And
a
you
weird point
already
right
hate
now, but at
it.
least the content is still there. At least people still like it. So fair enough, but at least they have that part in their own little bubble. Go make your own bubble. Go do something else. It's not just it's not just DC, it's for all these other types of studios. I feel like other types of studios have stopped doing this. Like after the MonsterVerse, after
Oh, the
all the
monster
Transformers
verse.
verse,
Bring it
like
back.
they've learned to stop doing it. Sony still needs to learn that a little with their Spider-Man stuff personally, um
Oh,
but
I
yeah,
got no
DC, you do
so
have, this stuff will make you money, obviously, but don't worry about the connectivity stuff because we have seen that as long as they're good and as long as it's within that superhero genre, people are going to go out and see it. They haven't gotten tired of it yet. So just make the movies. It's fine.
yeah.
It
And Kevin
really is
Feige
okay.
made
Unless if it's good, then
okay
fine.
movies.
But
Kevin Feige made okay movies, like the first couple Fantastic Four and things like that as a producer.
produce
He
them,
got
yeah.
lucky. He came in and said, "Let me do this Iron Man," had a vague plan in the back of his brain, then said, "Okay, how about, Marvel, Disney at the time, who had him first? Who was it, Fox? Or is it Paramount?
Paramount.
Who had him for Paramount? That he was like, let me just see what we can do with this. Let me throw a little after credit scene. We'll do a Hulk movie after that, and
Hmm.
then he said, okay, let's just try this phase one. If this works, this will be phase one, and then we'll figure out phase two as we go. And as phase one was working, then they figured it out. They didn't sit there and go, 10 years, we're gonna strategically put everything out and we're gonna make it happen. That's not what Kevin Feige did. That's not what he does still. He if you guys, you Marvel actual shills, go look at all of the past Comic Cons and look how many things actually didn't happen. There are movies we were
Inhumans.
supposed to get in Humans that we never got. Like, what are we doing here? Like, pay attention. Anyway, back to Zazzy Boy here. He's seems like an idiot. So here's their. I'll read off. We'll go one at a time here. So they put up this slide: brands, franchises, iconic series and characters, and international. The international are all just companies I don't know. We'll start with iconic series and characters. And these are things they're going to focus on. Okay. This is what they said their main focus and priorities are.
Mhm.
Friends, which are we getting a reboot here? Are we getting a little spinoff like How I Met Your Father, which was fine first season. It was a good first season. Fixer Upper, the Big Bang Theory, which is fair because I know the Big Bang Theory, the Young Sheldon show is watched and loved. Um,
There's a lot of
Property
subscribers for that.
Brothers, uh, what is this? Drivers, Dine-ins, and Drives or whatever, and Sex in the City are their big iconic series and characters. Okay. They're franchises. This to me this is pathetic. They say Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Shark Week, Game of Thrones, 90 Day Finance Universe, and the Wizarding World
Fiance,
of Harry
90 Day
Potter.
Fiance.
Is that what it says? I can't read. It's
Yeah,
a
90
little
Day
blurry.
Fiance.
It does say fiance. I apologize. Um, to me, the fact that you've separated Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman as three separate things as your franchises is a problem. It's a problem. You know why? Because if you go to go find your dad, if he's a comic book fan, go find any 50, 60-year-old comic book fan, an older comic book fan, and say, hey, did you ever think Iron Man would be a household name? And they'll say, no. But Kevin Feige, you want Kevin Feige's plan? Why don't you have Green Lantern in here? Go make him a household name. And he's already bigger than Iron Man would have been. Like, what are we talking about here? And in this conference, they said that they're going to distance themselves from Snyder and they're going to make Superman a focal point. Great. Bring Henry Cavill back. That'll be one bright spot. Do you want to touch on this real quick before we get to the brands?
Um, well, based on what you just listed right now, I can already tell you that they're hoping to not only make some of their WB brands and HBO brands prevalent, but also their Discovery brands prevalent on this streaming service as well. Which, okay, is understandable. You just have to advertise that they're on the streaming service. Fine, whatever. But um, it is odd that they are formatting these things like how they are in that slide because it just I'm not too sure yet. Maybe you're about to say this as we continue, but it doesn't seem like they know that the thing about HBO and streaming is that it's quality original stuff that people really draw to, and not necessarily all the franchise stuff. So I remember hearing them say that they're
It's
kind of
true.
trying to pull back on how much content is going to be releasing to save on cost, which I think is fair on the cost front, but I hope that they don't do
They're
it
like
too
3
much to
billion in
where
debt
there's
or something.
barely anything new that's happening. And it kind of feels
Yeah.
like they're trying to be a little too reliable on what they have, especially like their discovery content, which is fine that it's on the streaming service. I don't really care, but I still want them to, realize that they're focused on, storytelling and finding like, the new show. And it's not to say you can't have, the franchises still be there. Obviously, they help too, but maybe you're about to change what I say on this, but that kind of has me worried that they're not thinking about that aspect, and they're really thinking that they have very little to work with, despite Warner Media having quite the catalog of things to have.
Look, Superman, Man of Steel made money. It didn't make $1 billion.
Hmm. No,
Wonder Woman made
doesn't need to.
$1 billion. Second Wonder Woman wasn't as good.
Sure.
Brandon Routh's Superman was not good. Sure, we might have a little bit of nostalgia from back in the day for it, maybe a little affinity
No.
for a little fun time, but like it didn't make a lot of money and it wasn't very good. People won't flock to the theater for Superman. They'll flock for a good Superman movie.
Hmm.
Man of Steel's divided. Half fans hate Man of Steel. Half the fans love it. Um, I think I'm more in line with what you're saying here. I want good content, and you shouldn't be afraid of original stuff. Here's the brands. Let's get to the last part
Yeah.
here. HBO, Discovery,
Okay.
CNN,
Okay.
HGTV, Cartoon Network, DC, and the Looney Tunes. I'm going to tell you right now, and maybe it's because I'm high on rereading the Harry Potter books. Just finished Goblet of Fire this morning, and let me tell you,
Yeah.
Kyle, it's been decades since I've read these books. I've forgotten
Hmm.
a lot of books knowledge. Movie 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, my favorite movie.
Hmm.
So far through the 4 books, Goblet of Fire, favorite book. Had a blast.
Yeah.
Adored it.
Yeah.
Elite.
Yeah. That's probably one of my
Um,
favorites too.
Harry Potter being so low on that, like not feeling it like it's at the end. It's not in your it just is like, hey, here's a franchise, Wizarding World, Harry Potter. Why are we not trying harder with Harry Potter to make it better? Get JK out of there. Get some new, unique filmmakers. Give us real stories. They have the Star Wars problem. I want something that are years away. 100,000 years in one direction or the other, future or the past, except I still low key would be down for just a Dumbledore movie because I think Jude Law is awesome as Dumbledore. Like, I want the adventures of young Dumbledore and young McGonagall. That'd be incredible. There's a franchise for you. 100 million HBO Max exclusive. Um, I also
Not
stand
wrong.
by it. We will see the Batgirl movie. We'll see it
On
at some point.
VHS.
Yep. I'm serious though. I'm calling it right now. We will see it. We will see the Batgirl movie at some point on HBO or whatever they change it to. Discovery, HBO Plus minus Disney sucks, but we're gonna copy them. That kind of attitude. We will see
Yeah.
it. The Scoob movie, maybe not, but Batgirl, I think we'll see. I think this graphic is idiotic. Disney doesn't do this. Disney doesn't. You're copying Disney. If they're the top dog here, and you're copying them, they don't say, "Hey, here's our brands. Where's your anime? Where's that?" They have great
I was gonna bring
anime
that up in a
on
sec.
on HBO. Where's your anime? Where's Jujutsu Kaisen, which is on HBO, which is where you find it in the dub, which is where a lot of people
Mhm.
find it. Where's that? They have the whole Studio Ghibli category, and you're telling me Ghibli is not going to be a focal point franchise? I guarantee you those streams are pretty good. I bet you they're a lot better than some of their documentaries and other stuff they pump out on there. What? I just don't get this. Like, Shark Week and Game of Thrones truly might be the actual biggest thing they currently have out of everything, like, that I actually hear about all the time. Like, Shark Week shows up, everybody loves it. Game of Thrones is still
Yeah.
watched absurdly a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Sex and the City, they just rebooted it. Like, all of these, like The Big Bang Theory, Friends, and Sex and the City are mostly reruns. A lot of these are mostly
Mhm.
reruns. Netflix died on the rerun game. Everybody thought it was a great idea. We can just have it in the background. I miss my background show. And then, do you remember this? This is a little side note, but when they lost and they paid that 100 million to keep Friends for 1 year, they lost The Office, they lost all these shows, and they were going to the new
Mhm.
new Peacock, which a lot of people like Peacock, which people were I remember so many people complained and whined. They're taking away my background show. How am I supposed to binge all my shows? This is horrible. This is awful. I'm not going to pay for 900 streaming services. And then they left Netflix.
Mhm.
And Netflix was like, "We're going to make original content." Look, the original content game is the way to go, but you do need a little bit of that rewatchability stuff, but you can't die on
Mhm.
that hill. Netflix tried to die on the hill and it got way too expensive and all the studios took them back. But you can't die. HBO can't be like, we're only going to stick with rewatching Friends and Sex in the City. And I mean, I know they've rebooted it, and I know the first season that they redid was liked by the fans. But and Game of Thrones is a different beast entirely. We'll see how the spinoff does at the end of the month here, but you can't die on that hill. You can't die on Superman and this 10-year vision plan. Plans change. Do you know how many
Mhm.
executives you've had? Warner Brothers in the last decade? Like
Yeah.
12. Sorry, Zazzy boy. I don't know if you're going to be around a while. um, but
No, you're
anyway,
absolutely right.
give me some. I'm losing my point here. Give me some direction. What's your thoughts?
No, you're on a good point. It's kind of looping back to what I was saying, that I'm worrying that they're not thinking too much about what the bread and about what makes HBO HBO, and that it's, the original content that they always deliver on. That the majority of the time is really really good, and it seems like when it comes to the world of streaming, Zaslav is thinking that it's the rewatchability factor that really plays into what makes streaming work. So that's why he's saying brands, his own particular brands, by the way, with the likes of Property Brothers, 90 Day Fiance, whatever you have, and then saying Big Bang Theory and Friends are going to be the bread and butter. When yes and no, like yes, people do want to come home and just watch a little of their favorite shows and TV and not think about the day. But at the same time, there's also an equal amount of people that do want fresh new stories, fresh new ideas. And that's what HBO supplies. And not only HBO, but also what Warner Media has as well. I mean, some of the stuff that they left out here is what HBO Max already has. And that's, like you were saying, the Studio Ghibli anime type stuff, but also the Criterion catalog, or the TCM or Turner Classic Movie catalog. I almost said TMZ or something, but and I worry that that stuff's going to be going away. And at that point, is there a streaming service that's really going to have that particular stuff, or is Warner Media going to keep that hidden and not have those things be released, kind of like what happened with some of these other HBO projects that were just canceled. Are those never going to see the light of day? Like, they don't seem to really care about physical media anymore. So if you really love whether it's these old movies or these new shows, you better try and find the physicals of it, because who knows if they're going to be on some other streaming service, or if they're just not going to have the physical media for you to be able to watch them ever again. So it's a concern. Like, I just worry about that.
I saw a tweet. I put it in a chat of ours with our movie pals. I don't know if you saw it, but it was something along the lines of like the worst part of the Warner Brothers issue is all the people who collect physical media now thinking they're just as pompous as they always have been, or something like that. Like, I do
Yeah,
collect physical media, and I love physical media. I don't collect a lot. I try to collect what I think belongs on a shelf because I think it's
sure.
something amazing to have. But like, why are we not getting like? I just you're canceling Batgirl, you're canceling these shows, but then Disney is saying, "Hey, let's make specific streaming content," and they're getting views. And granted, they do have the MCU to fall back on, or Star Wars to fall back on. But Obi-Wan
Mhm.
Kenobi, I think majority people liked it. There's a population who didn't, but I think that, and I think a lot of people really liked the ending, and that's going to be connected. But it's not. It was. We can make it work. You could do like, how cool it would be to do a Harry Potter like show on HBO Max.
Could
Like,
work.
just a kid who's not a famous boy who you follow, who's just actually just going through the daily life of high school at Hogwarts or something. Like, I'd be down. I'd be so down.
There would be
Also, yeah.
so much behind the scenes, like, not behind the scenes, but there'd be so many like kids like in group circles being like, "Well, I heard Harry Potter like has sex with Voldemort in the cauldrons or something." You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
so
my
many
god,
high
she
school
used a polyjuice.
rumors.
Did you hear that couple used a polyjuice potion so they could see how it feels for each other? That's happening in Harry Potter. JK,
Yeah,
where's my 50 shades of
yeah.
idiota? Anyway, uh so um so
Of
I'm
Ariel.
gonna lose my thought. I'm gonna lose my thought. It's a fleeting thought,
Sorry,
Kyle. Stop. Uh,
sorry. Go for
Shout
it.
out to my brother who said Harry Potter is way more fun to say if you take away the H and the P.
Mhm.
Idiota! Doesn't matter really the accent you do. It's just fun. Um,
Just scream it.
I've lost my thought. It fleeted away.
Well, it
Um,
had to do with your Harry
oh no,
Potter
here it
show.
is. It's back to
There you go.
anime.
You got it.
Um,
Mhm.
if you go to Netflix right now, they might have like the their anime might be more than almost everything else they've got. They have tried
Yep.
and licensed out so much anime. They're making live action One Piece, which reported right now is going to have like $100 million budget or something like that. Like, it's supposed to be the possibly the biggest show. What I heard is the biggest show since Game of Thrones, but we all know The Mandalorian paid more for per episode than Game of Thrones did on less episodes. But
Oh.
if that show slaps, it's going to be insane. But then again, their live action anime adaptations have not been good. Death Note was
Mhm.
horrible. I actually thought Cowboy Bebop was okay at the slightest, highest okay margin you can get. Um,
Wow.
but like
Hater.
they've got like the first seasons of One Piece on there. They've got all of the original Naruto. They've got all these animes. They just licensed Vinland Saga. Sony was smart. They bought, they combined Funimation
Crunchyroll,
and
right?
Crunchyroll. They bought that.
Mhm.
Yes, I believe they had Crunchyroll and they bought Funimation, or it was vice
Mhm.
versa, something like that. But that was smart.
And then merged into Crunchyroll, right? I
Amazon,
think all of them did.
yeah, Amazon
Okay.
said, "Hey, we're not just gonna put out, they made Vinland Saga. They licensed out Vinland Saga to Netflix so to get a little bit more popularity, but they have been really smart of saying, let's just do our own animated adult shows, which is anime. That really is what it is. And they said, let's do Invincible. Let's do a spin-off of Invincible. Let's look at The Boys. Look at original adult content that's right there that is great and awesome and on streaming. They're HBO, Zazzy Boy is an idiot. And he needs to course correct. And I think, God, how many if we went through all the videos where we have said that HBO or Warner Bros needed to course correct, I bet you we reached 20 times because they are so
Sure.
reactionary. They're so ridiculous. How is it that they're finally feel like they've got a leg up? They've got Batman, Shazam looks good, Black Adam looks fun. Like HBO is dominant. You get the Lakers winning time with the Lakers was awesome. Our Flag Means
Yeah.
Death, Taika Waititi was awesome and it was watched. People watched it. Um,
Mhm.
what's Barry finally comes back, original HBO. They give Bill Hader everything he can do. Like, what are you? Why are you? You're finally on top. Why are you gonna die on your? Why are you gonna pull out the sword and take yourself out? What? Why? It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, bring more direction back to now my rambling. What? Talk about something.
Um, I do have one good thing that I want to say about um Warner Bros. And what they're doing here. By the sounds of what Zazzy Boy is saying, it's sounding like he wants movies to be made specifically to have a theatrical release first. And I do like that coming from someone who loves the theater experience. And it's sounding like they're going to pull away from making an overabundance of movies and then deciding which goes to theaters and which goes to streaming. By the sounds of it, it seems like they're going to be thinking that the movies that they make are going to be made for the theatrical experience, and then I guess they might decide like whether that's the case or not after it's all finished, but at least they're going to go in with that mindset. And that's a mindset that I really appreciate, and that's probably like the small glimmer of hope that I have when it comes to this new regime. That being said though, they did also bring up the point that they're not going to have their movies be released to HBO Max or to streaming after their 45-day theatrical window that was previously agreed on with the likes
They
of many of
will
the
or
other
won't.
studios, that they are going to try and not do that anymore. I don't know if that's official yet, but they did say that they want to have each of their movies be a case by case situation and have more flexibility in their own right to be able to decide
Yeah.
whether a movie gets a theatrical release of like the 45-day window, or they decide when they want their movie to be put on streaming, and they don't just stick to the 45-day windowing for all of their releases. And that part's frustrating because it felt like the studios and the theaters were finally at an agreement point to where the 45-day window seemed very fair all across the board. It even still, some CEO from above comes in and goes, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. And it's like, we just fixed this. Like, we finally got something fair between theaters and studios, and it still isn't good enough. So, despite
So
me giving
give
like
me.
one
Hang
glowing
on.
review, it
H-
still has like a
hang
knife in
on
the
here.
back to it.
Give me an example here in the negative way of that, because my thinking is that would be better for theaters, because if the movie is dominating, they'll say no, we're going to leave it in theaters, we're not going to take it off,
That's
and a
true.
movie that's
It
not
could.
dominating, they will take off faster and just say, hey, we'll get it out of your theater, put something else that'll make you money there. But what's a, because that's the only way my head's gone, I can't, what's a negative on that aspect? Like
Well,
what, how does
for
it
one thing,
negatively affect theaters?
it could be negative if a studio just decides that even despite a movie being good, like they still pull it early to have it go onto streaming, when a theater could really use um, more movies to be able to have at their disposal to play. I mean, we're already at a point with theaters to where less movies are
Mm,
going to theaters and they're going more towards streaming because that's the name of the game now. Um, so it's just going to take away more and more stuff because we're already at that point to where, despite it feeling like there was one big release after another during the summer, we still aren't getting, lots and lots of releases throughout the whole year. So and
sure.
it's just, and also again it's that agreement part, like wait, they finally were able to have an agreement on a windowing, because there was always this back and forth for a long time about the 90-day windowing, and with streaming during the pandemic it was even more of a chaos
Yeah.
of like, well, are we even not going to do this at all? But 45 days is very fair. Like, that's enough time for a movie to really run its course for the amount of money that a studio would need to get back from it, but also
Unless you're
enough
Top Gun.
time for a theater to be able to get enough capitalization on it for its run, and then they're able to move on to a new release. So
Yeah, that's
that's
fair.
that's the frustrating part of it all, despite me really being hopeful that they're thinking about making movies for theaters first.
And they already have agreed. The last regime already agreed to those contracts, so they'll have to uphold that with the theaters. So that'll just come in renegotiations, and I'm sure the theaters will fight that and be like, look, you've got to give us some leeway, like maybe a payout or something, and be like, hey, if you're going to pull a movie early, fine, pay us what would have happened for the 45 days or whatever, assuming it
Oh,
does
they
like an
wouldn't
average
pay.
margin or something. Well, then they'll just sit in contract issues for a while, but they have to wait till those contracts are up because they already signed those other contracts with the theaters. Um, I do want to mention
Hopefully,
that
yeah.
I had it wrong. So the new combined streaming service is supposed to come out next year. Look,
Oh,
Zazzy boy, summer of 2023. I thought it was 2024 is what I remember reading, but
okay.
2023, if that's correct, and you're going to combine them, don't be stupid. No one watches Discovery Plus. You added 1.7, I just looked it up, 1.7 subscribers in this quarter to HBO
Mhm.
Max. Just keep HBO Max. Don't make it HBO Plus. I'm tired of all the pluses. We don't need to copy Disney every time they do anything. HBO Max is a good name. It's a powerful name, I think, in terms of like where you're gonna go. It's better than Hulu, Apple TV, like, and that they're Apple Plus now, aren't they? Like, just
I
put
don't know.
all the Discovery Here's what you really should do. Now, okay, we've gotten in this debate. A lot of our friends are. I might be the only person on the planet that doesn't have an issue with the HBO Max app, like, ever. Like, I really
Which is
don't.
weird.
Every now and then, it's hard to find where I'm at, like, to find the list of episodes, I feel. But I
Yeah,
never have buffering
same.
issues. I truly don't. I make sure the apps stay updated too. Maybe you guys don't do that. But I've never really had issues. I think Netflix is still the best user friendly, but I really think HBO is a close second. If you really want to make HBO or whatever your streaming service is going to be great, keep the HBO name. I think the color scheme is great. Keep the dark purple
Mhm.
and just reformat the interface and make it more user friendly. Don't copy Disney Plus just to make it more user friendly. Hire a bunch of like younger IT people to come in and test some stuff out. And I say younger because we're going to get some IT guys in their 40s who think this is easier and it probably isn't. So
Mhm.
go do that. That is your true key to success, Zazzy boy. That's your true key to success. You need to just keep it HBO Max and make it a better interface. Try to own the interface game where it's super freaking easy to find everything. That's how I think you course correct here. But any other thoughts here?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but when it comes to these types of mergers, everyone's name has to be integrated at the same time, because otherwise, how are these people possibly gonna know?
Be
So
fine.
I'm not it would be fine, but they don't know that, or they think that
Here's
that's not the case. So
here's the truth.
they're gonna do a
Here's the
rebrand, and it's annoying because we already got a rebrand done with HBO Max. People know HBO Max now. It took a while, but we got there. Just keep
They're the
sticking with
number
it.
one streaming service. They're number
Yeah,
one in terms of users right now.
yeah. Stick with it. Just add your discovery section. You could put in like a big button somewhere. All the stuff will be there. It's fine. Just leave the
I'm
branding
telling
alone.
you
Continue with what you
right
have.
now, if you are sitting there, Zazzy boy, and you're like, well, how are the people who watch Property Brothers gonna know that Property Brothers is on HBO Max if we don't rebrand and let them know that Discovery is now part? Here's what you
Yep.
do, you dumb turd. You tell the news outlets and they'll spread the word. And then if that family who loves Property Brothers doesn't see that it's on there, one day you have an algorithm. You've hired a lot of smart people to make an algorithm that has gotten so insane that people now don't like it. Look at the algorithm, find out, look at your HBO channel. Look at the data. Who's got the HBO channel was still with cable? Are they watching Property Brothers? Let's
The
make
man of the
sure that
house does.
we let's make sure we advertise that the first and next time they log in to HBO Max.
Mhm.
Discovery Plus is too long. Peacock is too long of a name and it's a weird name.
Yeah.
Peacock. Anyway, that's what you do. Don't be stupid. Let's wrap the show up here. We can talk about our other topic another day because that's a universal any time of the day kind of convo. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I forgot about that, that we're
guys,
gonna do
what do you
that,
think
but
of
yeah.
all this? This really was just the whole show, and that's okay with me. I'm here for it. What do you think about all this stupidity? Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that great stuff. Thank you, Moomill patrons. Join us for every week. Go check out our other reviews. And as always, thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.